We refer to our Torah as the Torah's Chaim, as the Torah for life. Rav Noach Weinberg used to explain what this means is that the Torah means instructions, and our Torah is an instruction manual for life. And we see this all over the place, but I believe this week's Parsha is one such instance. What do we do? What is one supposed to do when they're trying to approach someone and to gently rebuke them or try to correct some sort of wrong that's being done? And that's a question that comes up in life. And we see a fascinating example from this week's Parsha of how to respond. We know that when Yaakov is on the move, Jacob sees that there's these flocks and there's these shepherds who are basically like wasting time. They're not doing their job. They're just hanging out around a well and they're not doing anything. And he recognizes that this is not right. They're on the clock. They're meant to be working and they're not doing much. So what does he do? He basically tells them that they should go ahead and start, they should get back on the clock. And one would expect that, they see this this kind of yeshiva guy coming, giving these big shepherds, these big guys, they're getting rebuked by this guy coming from outside. One would imagine that they're not so inclined to respond favorably to this. And yet, they ultimately, they seem to acquiesce. Why is that? So Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky points out that there was one critical word that Yaakov used in addressing these individuals. He told them the following as he approached them. He said, Vayomar Alehem Yaakov, Achai, ma'ayin atem, my brothers, where are you from? He refers to them as his brothers. He disarmed them, so to speak. He acknowledged the brotherhood, the community that he had with them. And after he approached them very gently, then he said, listen, the day is still long. It's still time, to bring in the livestock, to water the flock and go on grazing. And then he engaged them in a conversation, and ultimately it was taken care of. And I think for us, we have to remember also that sometimes we have discussions, conversations with people, and it can sometimes be difficult. I remember one time I was living in Washington Heights, my wife and I, and we were walking, it was a rainy morning, and I came in after a synagogue in the morning, and I left my umbrella right outside my front door in my apartment building, just to let it, drip out. I didn't want to bring in the water into my apartment. And we walked out to go to the subway, the A train on Bennett Avenue, 184th Street. We walked out there, 5 minutes later to go to work. And as we walked outside, I saw that there was a puddle where my umbrella had been. That's interesting. Someone took my umbrella. And if they took it, they must not be too far away. So we walk outside to approach the subway. I'm kind of agitated that my umbrella had been stolen. And we start walking quickly down Bennett Avenue up, towards 184th Street. And we saw down in the distance, 50 yards away, there's a guy holding my bright blue umbrella, not even using it, just walking with it, by his side. And I tell my wife, I'm like, I think that's it. She said, no, it's not it. We keep walking. Now we're within 20 yards. I'm like, not it. She said, no, it is it. I go further, right? And finally we're right next to him, and we look at each other, and we're like, that's it. So I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get my umbrella back? It's not right. The guy took my umbrella. I want it back. I could have been very aggressive with him, rolled up my sleeves a little bit and prepared, to engage him. Or I could have done what Yaakov did, right? Yaakov, who referred to these guys as my brothers. And thank God that is, in fact, what I did. I looked at him and I said, excuse me, sir. I have a very similar umbrella and I just lost it a couple of minutes ago. I wonder if somehow, maybe somehow you took that one. And he told me, he said, you know what? Yeah, I saw that umbrella. I liked it, so I took it. And then what did he do? He handed it right back to its rightful owner, to me. And I got my umbrella back. So the lesson I think is very powerful in general. If we don't necessarily want to come at people aggressively when they're not doing the right thing. We come kindly, unthreateningly. That's usually a very good way to go about our life. This is yet another example of Torah's Chaim. Our holy Torah is an instruction manual for life. God willing, we should hold fast to it and bask in its guidance. Have a beautiful Shabbos.